Welcome back to Loserville, folks. A October 2nd, 2025 edition of your favorite local politics podcast. Just kidding, it's the only one. You can't it's also your least favorite. But we're here to tell you the things you need to hear and the things you don't want to hear. So that's our job, right, David?
Yeah,
Um, should we start off with the lady who got picked up in Southlake?
sure. You
Sex
take it away.
trafficking?
Yeah,
I
take it
mean,
away.
it's really tangentially related to uh, Dallas. I mean,
Yeah.
Southlake is not Dallas. Although, if you and I were to trace the lines of influence in City Hall, many of them actually lead back to Southlake. Very, very odd.
Yeah.
After the Park Cities, I don't know, that one might be the other external center of power.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of key influential people live there, and then, they need things in Dallas to go their way because of business interest, I guess.
So I, I don't know. I listen to some podcasts who are obsessed with like the Epstein stuff.
hmm
And it it really looks like kind of anyway, one of the things that they constantly say is, look, it, for normal people, these kinds of sex trafficking rings that we apparently allocate all of our municipal police budget to fight don't actually exist. Like every now and then, you've got a massage parlor where they're trying to extract some kind of repayment from immigrants that they've brought over.
Yeah.
But it's like this idea that young women are being abducted and taken across the country or to different countries for sex work is like, yes, you can find instances where it has occurred in human history, but you can actually know about all of them because that's how many there have been, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, this one's really weird. But one of the things that specifically it's just banner constantly promotes is that once you get to a certain level of wealth, you just get real weird about sex stuff. And it looks like this freaking Southlake mom was procuring women. No one's made the specific allegation that they're underage women, in contrast, I guess, to the Epstein stuff,
Yeah.
for this New York financier who apparently had a two-story midtown sex dungeon. Think about the level of money that it takes to have a two-story midtown anything. And
Yeah.
he's just using it for a sex dungeon. I don't understand. So why is Southlake the destination for this lady in her apparently wind down years of sex trafficking?
I guess it's quality of life, cheap living, but only amongst the wealthy,
Well, part of me wants to try to tie it in some way to the J6 Crescent. Have you ever seen the
Yeah.
map of the J6 Crescent?
Yeah, it's
That
basically like Northeast Tarrant County. Like
Yeah,
more like per capita, like Tarrant County has more January 6th insurrectionists than like any other county in the entire country.
yeah, but the crescent
Yeah,
extends into southern Denton County and
yeah,
then around to northwest Dallas County.
yeah.
Like that's the J6 Crescent, and I don't know that there is actually like a strong correlation. Obviously, Epstein was a very bipartisan child rapist.
Yeah,
Um, but it's just, I don't know. There's something very weird about these suburbs to me.
yeah,
And I've had to do increasing amounts of like land use work in the suburbs, and the whole you have to reset your entire brain to understand the politics out there. And you know, I've always contended that, local politics doesn't really divide right left very convincingly
Yeah.
because nobody knows what the conservative or liberal position is on a water bill. It's just like it's not a thing. And there some cities have actually tried to really inject this sort of hard right, hard left into their local politics. And like the most recent example is Odessa, which is
Hmm.
being just lampooned
Yeah.
in Texas Monthly. Somebody check that for me. I hope it's not Tribune. I think it's Texas Monthly
I don't know.
about how they elected all these right wingers to the city council who immediately ceased any effort to govern and actually actively frustrated the efforts of their professional staff to continue governing. And they ran out of water twice, among other calamities that they have visited upon their
Yeah, well,
city.
it's not that big of an issue because Odessa is just, next to a bunch of water. So if they run out, they can just, take a
Yeah.
bucket out back and get some more water. It's
Well,
not in a
actually, they
barren
have a
area.
huge amount of groundwater that
Yeah, they
has
do.
been newly injected into their soil.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it's fracking runoff.
hey, you can't complain with what you got, you know?
Well, and since the state of Texas refuses to force drilling companies to disclose what they put in the fracking water,
Yeah.
the rules that we have created simply treat fracking water as though it were nuclear waste. It's like it has to be injected into the ground and can never be touched again. So yeah, I don't know. But what I was going to say about these suburbs is that they're really trying to move in that direction. And the Patriot Mobile people have tried to take over their school districts.
Hmm.
That appears to be unwinding quickly. And those same actors, the sort of Patriot Mobile, what was the thing called? It's like Texas Freedom Network or something,
Hmm.
and it's Tarrant County Republican Women, and a bunch of these groups have really tried to inject some of this hard right partisanship into Southlake in particular, but
Yeah.
also, you know, Keller,
Yeah.
all of those different places.
Yeah.
So, um, and I don't know how well I don't know how well that's translating, but it's definitely makes for a weird feeling when you go out there as a consultant and you're trying to talk to, the mayor. And I'm bringing him up specifically because I used to work with him and I know like what his actual internal politics are. And they're kind of different from what he's saying in public now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sean. I can't help it. That's just what I notice.
Yeah. I mean that whole area is just like a completely different beast and like unknown to me. Like I actually can't remember the last time I was like in Tarrant County other than Arlington itself. Like I just like I think a lot of like a lot of us that like live in the city or inner ring suburbs, like we might go north a lot, but like why would you ever go to Southlake? You know? Because
I
it's
only
basically like a bedroom community. I know like you have consulting stuff out there, but like would you ever choose to like spend your free time in Southlake or like
No,
Keller
there's
or
only
yeah.
one thing that gets me over there without getting paid for it, and it's it's the Dumb Zone podcast recordings that take place at Dan McDowell's house.
Okay.
And he is on the ragged edge of Southlake. He's actually in a community where there was a huge debate between whether the kids would go to Southlake Carroll ISD or Grapevine Colleyville ISD.
Mm,
And
yeah.
his neighborhood lost and went to his daughters went to school before the change was made, but now his neighborhood goes to GCISD. And so I'm somewhat familiar also with what it's done to the property values. It's
Yeah.
it's stunning. I mean, Grapevine Colleyville is not a bad school district at all, but
Hmm.
you want to talk about a bump to your property values, put it in
Yeah.
Southlake
Southlake. Yeah.
Carroll.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. We try to go to Fort Worth a couple times a year for
Yeah.
concerts or whatever, and also just the food scene is fantastic.
Yeah.
I wish for Dallas that we could have a Mexican restaurant as good as Don Artemio in Fort Worth, which is, in my mind, the most left out and unfairly disregarded restaurant in North Texas by Michelin.
Yeah.
If they don't get some kind of Michelin recommendation this next week, whenever they're having the awards, I'm going to protest by being mildly put off and
Yeah.
still going to every Michelin restaurant I can go to.
This I don't want to take us too far down a food rabbit hole, but so I have not been yet. It is
Food is
actually on our
politics,
bucket.
baby.
It's not our it's on my wife and my bucket list to hit up some of like the good Fort Worth restaurants, of which there's like three maybe. Um, but that is I will say like I respect like the James Beard nominations way more than respect the Michelin recommendations
I think this
because
is a
like
fair opinion.
yeah, because there's nothing here in like Dallas or the suburbs that has gotten like a beard recommendation over the past like let's say 5 years that I'm like, wow, that place fucking blows. Like what the
Yeah.
hell? Versus like on the Michelin guide that happened this past year, there were places that like I would not put in like the top 100 restaurants in the region, you know? Like there were some duds on that list. Like some
The
true duds.
the most glaring one in my mind is Juan on Lower Greenville, which
I don't
is,
even know that.
well, it's ostensibly Vietnamese.
Okay.
And to me, it's like what an Eastern European prison cook's view of Vietnamese is. Like
Yeah,
it really sucks, and it makes a bunch of people's lists. And every time it makes a list, I'm like, I must be wrong. I'll go back and try it again. And three
it's
times
bad.
now, I've been right.
Fair.
Um, okay, busy week, busy last 10 days or however many since we recorded for City Hall.
Yeah. Just normal stuff happening.
Although it's mostly like nerdy stuff. A lot of it's not
Yeah.
all that like portentous in terms of big policy swings, but it reveals stuff. And this is why nerds like us watch it. The I think the big one that our listeners have called for us to address, it was the attempted secret meeting of uh, the Housing and Homeless Solutions Committee of the Dallas City Council with representatives of Monty fucking Bennett for the purpose of moving the bridge to somewhere in District 3.
Yeah. Out of sight, out of mind, you know.
So they're having a secret meeting with the man who inherited the title of most Monty Burns cartoon villain person in Dallas after
Hmm.
uh, what's his name died. Um, who are we naming the Trinity Park after? Harold Simmons?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Harold Simmons is truly Monty Burns, looked like him and everything, and also tried to bring nuclear waste to Texas. Like
Yeah.
he really was a cartoon. But now Monty Bennett is by far our most, it's cartoonish. Like it's
Yeah.
inexplicably evil, wealthy person.
Yeah.
Like does stuff that
Does not live in the city as
does not
most of
live
the
in the city,
cartoon
would
villains
never live
do.
in the city, is
No.
actively trying to destroy city government for, look, when Ray Hunt comes in and spends money to make City Hall do a backflip, it's
Yeah.
because he's going to catch millions of
Yeah.
dollars fall out of City Hall's pockets on the way. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
for, for one of the wealthiest humans to ever walk the face of the earth, Dallas has invested tax dollars in every fucking thing he's built here in the last, I don't know, since before I got here. That you can kind of respect.
Yeah.
That's just normal graft, right?
Yeah.
It's not even illegal.
No. And
What?
there's like it's very complicated, I want to be clear, but like it's like a symbiotic relationship. Like I get it. You know, it's like we're gonna build like nice parks and nice arts, right next to your like real estate dealings, like or other things. Like that's kind of like the Dallas way. And what Monty Bennett is doing is just completely different.
Well,
It's
yeah,
like,
when Ray Hunt goes to bed at night, what he thinks is, well, I convinced the Dallas City Council to do this thing that I think is the right thing for the
yeah,
city of Dallas. Just happens to make me a ton of money also.
yeah,
He's not thinking, I am going to destroy this fucking city, you know?
yeah, totally.
He's just got a different, a very warped, but very different view of the success of the city long term. Whatever. That's a disagreement we can have with Mr. Hunt.
Yeah,
With Mr. Bennett, there's no such, it's much harder to explain. Like his efforts to pass Props ST and U last fall cost him, we have to estimate because nobody reported most of their expenditures because they spent them through organizations that never registered as PACs, which is
yeah,
illegal.
which is illegal. Yeah,
But I'm just estimating based on the amount of media I saw that, and of course, the price of getting stuff onto a ballot has gone north of seven figures at this point in
yeah,
Dallas because we
for
require
sure.
so many signatures in 60 days, and it's nearly impossible.
Well, not there's no 60-day limit on a charter amendment petition.
Oh, it's
It's
longer.
code.
Yeah.
No, yeah, essentially state law doesn't dictate a timetable.
Regardless, I think
Yeah, they spent, yeah, no,
they
you're
probably
right.
spent around $1 million gathering the signatures, and I'm
Yeah,
going to guess that they spent somewhere in the 2 to 3 million range on media.
yeah.
Um,
And there's people on his payroll too, like, I mean, they spent a lot of money on this.
yeah, the whole Dallas Hero organization is just personally funded by Bennett.
Yeah,
And so my point is he didn't benefit from any of that. Like that does nothing to help his business interests. As a matter of fact, the news lately is that one of his business interests is cash poor,
yeah.
which probably just means he's trying to do some kind of negotiation with either a co-investor or a regulator or something. I don't think
Hmm.
it's that he's out of money.
Yeah,
Um, but he didn't do anything. He's not actually trying to get money out of City Hall. He's trying to, there's no way to characterize ST&U as efforts to improve the city of Dallas. Like that is
yeah.
just not arguable. It's not like reasonable minds can disagree. If you have any understanding of the city budget, and I think he does, and I
Hmm.
think the people in his organization do, then what they have proposed is to basically dismantle city government, to make it to leave so little money for the politicians to allocate that there isn't anything for them to do. And
Yeah,
they cannot do anything other than not even basic maintenance on the streets. Like it's truly intended to make the government of the city of Dallas fail.
yeah,
Because I think they honestly believe that the city of Dallas government should be in Austin.
yeah. Controlled by the state government.
So apparently, Mr. Bennett is now taken with the idea of moving the bridge, the city's city-owned homeless shelter, to somewhere in southern Dallas.
Yeah,
Clearly, the out of sight, out of mind approach. And the moving the bridge has been a project that has been demanded by residents of Farmers Market, certain developers downtown, um, lots of people since the time during Laura Miller's
hmm,
administration when that site was selected. And Laura, to her credit, was opposed to that site. Um, all of the advocates, what some of my snarkier friends call the homeless industrial complex, the whatever we call uh, Metro Alliance or whatever it's now. What is it? It's like housing
housing forward or
housing forward or something like
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Anyway, the they all wanted it downtown because their argument was, well, all the resources, the private sector resources are already there, so
Hmm.
it's better for the homeless people. Now, you could also say concentrating all the services for homeless people in one area is an incredibly bad idea.
Yeah.
And that has been the point that people in farmers market, people in District 2 primarily, have been making for many years. They typically haven't been bold enough to say move the fucking thing after it actually got built and got open because economically speaking, you're talking about a catastrophe basically. That's a lot of money that doesn't actually benefit anybody to
Yeah.
move that facility. And it's really unclear like how people would be transported to the bridge if it were, you know, 18 miles south of here, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's in my mind, it hasn't been a really strong policy desire of a cohesive group of people. It hasn't been called for in a way that looks like a movement to me, but it has definitely caught fire in the mind of Jesse Moreno. And I don't know. I can't tell you whether Jesse's rightward shift is an effort to accomplish this goal or if it's for some other reason. But clearly, Jesse and Kara have become best buds. And now apparently there we see a pretty clear link between Jesse and Monty.
Yeah.
Um, which I don't know how to assess that other than it's really disturbing.
Yeah.
So,
And it was kind of apparent during the election as well, but like this is another clear link as well.
mhm. What do you mean during the election?
So, I mean, you look at people that were like under Monty's like network and the Hero Network, payroll, etc. And you look at like who they attacked during the election and you look at who they praised during the election. And
Oh,
so if you
and
view
Jesse went to that Monty Bennett event.
which one?
There was a specific fundraiser
No,
for,
that was Doug Deason,
oh,
who
that's right.
yeah, who Doug I would put also in this like I would put him like in the like Ray Hunt category. Not like
Much,
he's I
much
like
more.
yeah, like Doug is somebody who I would personally have like a lot of ideological disagreements with, but like gotta give him a lot of credit on what he's doing around like the death penalty and criminal justice reform. Like he's clearly trying to make North Texas and the state of Texas better under his worldview, which I think is a lot less like evil than Monty's, for instance. But like Doug held a fundraiser for like a conservative wing of council that was like Mendelson, Moreno, Bill Roth, and Jose Rivas, who was running against
Hmm.
Basil Dua. But that, yeah, that wasn't Monty. That was Doug. Which again, like, I mean, to me, the biggest issue with that is like Moreno was appearing at a fundraiser with Basil Dua's opponent, which I think I think sent a lot of shockwaves through, election observers that
Yeah,
cycle because I think that would be unfathomable in past cycles and like, his predecessor Adam Madrono like never would have done something like that to a member like Basil Dua.
ever.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, okay, so no real association between Deason and Bennett other than they're both conservative or what
Yeah.
passes for conservatism in our
Yeah. They're both like
world.
Republicans, like Trump voters, but like so what I was getting at about the links is, like if you look at like the Damian Levesque, who was obviously doing like the political work for Monty and Dallas Hero last cycle, even though it wasn't really being reported as such, like they were constantly lifting up Jesse as like what council should look like. Like he was, and like when they put out like recommendations, like it was clear like they were telling people like don't vote for Paula, don't vote for Gay, don't vote for Resendez, Basil Dua, West,
Yeah,
Dadana,
I got
Kittner,
that. I got that,
but
Baylor.
like Jesse was like basically one of two incumbents they genuinely endorsed. They kind of endorsed Darren as like a joke, but like that was obviously like a joke type of thing.
Well, they were trying to stand up a candidate against. Ridley,
Yeah.
and had lined up money and everything else, and that poor dumb broad couldn't figure out how to get on a ballot.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but they held this meeting at City Hall, which was I mean, that
Mistake
was like
number one.
yeah, mistake number one. But basically, my understanding of what occurred is most likely Mendelsohn, who is the chair of that committee, and Ashford representatives wanted to have a discussion about moving the bridge to Dallas Executive Airport down in District 3. Mendelsohn invited Moreno, Blair, who is the vice chair, and Moreno is a member of that committee, and
Correct.
Gracie. And Gracie is also a member of that committee. It's a seven-member committee, so four of them meeting to discuss city business and discuss committee business would be a violation of state law and open meetings, like TOMA. Um, Now, I think a few things need to be made like very clear here. Four members of a committee can legally meet to hear a presentation from an outside group as long as they're not having, like any votes, like any discussion about committee business, any discussions about city business. So like the fact that the four of them were together does not mean that there was an ethical violation. And I think that should be like very, very clear here before like anyone accuses them of anything. But like to what we said earlier, the four of them doing this at City Hall with city staff is a huge red flag. Um, the other thing is like based on the public statements that have come out from like Mendelsohn, Blair, and Gracie on this, um, it feels like Mendelssohn's story is changing a lot
Oh
over
my
time.
God.
Um,
She's up to three stories at this point.
yeah, yeah. Versus, like Blair's story has like been very, very consistent of like the chairwoman asked me to come to her office. I had no idea what was going on.
Well,
Type of,
even Lori's all over the road because then her
yeah,
second story was I wasn't there in an official capacity, which
yeah. Which both of
I
those things can be true, like to a certain
I will talk to
extent.
Lori at some point. There
Yeah,
is no such thing as a council member at City Hall in
yeah.
other than an official
Okay, fair,
capacity.
fair enough. But I think Blair and Gracie were a little bit a combination of a little bit blindsided, and then also okay, so we can go to like the like ethical concern about it, and then I think there's a very legitimate concern of like why are we hearing out Ashford? And on that one also like I put like all the onus on like Mendelssohn and Moreno versus like Blair and Gracie. I do think like City Hall observers like if you represent districts 3 and 8 specifically, it's very much a like if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, especially on these like issues of like homelessness and things like that.
Yeah.
So like I do not fault Gracie and Blair for attending and like I put the onus really on like Mendelssohn for like why are we even meeting with Ashford on this topic?
Well,
Especially because they want to put it in Gracie's district.
I could also see, not that neither Zara nor Lori has said this, but I could
Yeah.
see them saying, because they truly believe that if the chair invited them to a meeting,
Yeah.
she would already have properly posted the meeting. Like that's
Yeah.
not something
Well,
you go check before you go to a meeting generally.
yeah.
I bet some people will be now.
Yeah. And I forget if it was Gracie or Blair, but one of them kind of mentioned that it wasn't clear who was going to be in the meeting when they received the invitation. And then one of Mendelssohn's stories involved her saying, which this is inexcusable to be clear, but it involved her saying she didn't even realize Gracie was on the committee, which
Right.
is laughable because like if you were going to discuss something that dealt with committee business and you wanted to avoid a walking quorum ethical violation, I would think you or your staff would check the list of who's on the committee before
Well,
you
and I think
invite
her
four
staff
plus
did
people. Yeah.
because our friends Paula and Baz
Yeah.
got leaked the existence of the meeting.
Yeah.
And Paula is not on that committee, but Baz is, I think
Yeah.
is right.
I think that's right.
And
I think it's
um
Gay Willis and Jaime Resendez are the other, or six and
mhm.
seven. Okay.
So somebody leaked that. Now, who
Yeah.
that was, that's a long list.
Yeah.
It could be anybody at City
Yeah.
Hall who had any knowledge of this. And that it also tells you something about how egregious this is.
Yeah.
That somebody on staff would risk getting involved in this thing when everybody knows how retributive Kara can be,
Yeah.
because it was so glaringly, obviously wrong. And
Hmm.
that's the thing to comment on here. I actually disagree with your interpretation of Toma here.
Okay.
You can so the safe harbor and the morning news, I suppose, is who called around and got some expert to weigh in, and they got Bill Aylshire from Austin, who's a fantastic lawyer and a genuinely great human being. But I don't know that it's really weird because he does all this Texas Public Information Act work,
Hmm.
which is related to TOMA, but not the same thing.
Yeah.
And he weighed in that you committees don't have to comply with TOMA was his basic argument.
No,
And
that's
that's just
I
not,
would disagree with that as well.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely not true. And it's similar to a previous TOMA discussion you and I have had. It's so dumb
Yeah.
to say something like that because the test becomes how often does the ultimate decision maker, the city council in this case, accept the advice of the committee without making any changes to it? And the answer here is going to be like 85% of the time because every little fucking contract that requires council approval goes through that committee, probably on a memo briefing. They might not even discuss it, and they send it forward to council, and council accepts their recommendation and passes it probably on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
So to say that this body is purely advisory, which I've heard also, is
No.
not true, and
Yeah,
it's
I would
not
agree with
what the
that.
law says. And so
Yeah.
if you are going to have a a meeting with a quorum of the committee and an outside group to present. So yes, theoretically
It's
you could
theoretically
make that
possible.
legal,
Yeah.
but it's a law school exam answer kind of legal. The
Yeah.
only way it's legal is if nobody says shit.
Yeah.
Nobody can say a
Except for
goddamn
Ashford.
thing.
Ashford can
Ashford
say,
can say stuff, but then you
yeah.
can't ask them questions.
Yeah.
They can't ask you questions.
Yeah. Yeah. But and that's the thing here of like I think you know like the ethical standard for like I don't feel comfortable saying like I am 100% confident that they violated Toma because it is possible they did not. And then like even in one of like Mendelssohn's follow-up answers, it's like, well, once, council members Basildua and Blackman, called us out, I, Councilwoman Chairwoman Mendelssohn, left the room so
Left.
that there was only three of them. It's like kind of like, okay, okay, okay. So at that point,
Except that with
it's like,
Baz there, they still had four
but he left as well eventually, right?
eventually, but not before her. So her story doesn't even correct the problem.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean it's a mess. Like it's an absolute mess. And like it's a situation where like the optics could be worse than the actual violation because at the end of the day, like even if they technically didn't violate Toma, like why are they meeting with Ashford? Like
Well, and
it's not in the best interest of
that's
the
a mere
city.
fortuity of when Baz walked in the room and took the picture.
Yeah, which the picture is golden. Like that
So
picture,
good.
like yeah, it's so good.
It's so funny. You have to know quite a bit about City Hall to understand why that picture is so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
But for those of us who, know what Toma means and have been at
Mhm.
City Hall for any period of time, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. But I
And
do
and
I okay.
I'm not normally the guy who's calling for ethical complaints against council members because the truth is, if you look at the history of ethics complaints at City Hall, there are a total of two or three that have ever reached city council that had any merit at all.
Yeah.
And there are probably a dozen to two dozen that had merit that never went anywhere.
Yeah.
So the idea that we've got this ethical framework where a complaint is any kind of reliable indicator of unethical behavior. It's not, there's no correlation. Like it's just not there.
Yeah.
But in this instance, this is very, very clearly a violation of 12A, the city's ethics code. And it's pretty damn clear that it's a TOMA violation in my mind.
Okay.
I think that,
I think it should be investigated for sure.
the act of calling a meeting that you know to violate TOMA is in itself a violation of TOMA. And there's no question that Kara understands this better than she is now letting on.
Yeah. I mean, in your mind, though, is Mendelssohn like assuming this is a TOMA violation, to be clear, and this is where my knowledge, like basically, like I don't have any on what I'm about to ask. Would it be only the chairwoman who is found to violate TOMA, or would the rest of the committee members, if they are able to substantially prove like I had no idea what I was walking into?
There's civil and criminal penalties in TOMA.
Yeah,
The
I know that
criminal
one.
penalties are more or less at the discretion of the DA in the
Yeah.
county.
Like no one's going to jail, even though it's technically on the books.
Probably not. I don't
Yeah,
believe, I mean, there may be a
it
couple
is.
instances of
Yeah,
small towns where people have
yeah,
gone to jail for TOMA violations.
yeah.
But in general, it's not that kind of thing. It's
No, it's
generally
fines.
handled within the ethical framework of the
Yeah,
body that the
yeah,
people belong to, or via a civil penalty through the attorney general.
yeah,
And none of those things is going to happen in this instance. And that speaks to problems in those other organizations. That's not really a TOMA problem or a City of Dallas problem. But
yeah,
there will probably be almost no comeuppance from this, which is very frustrating for people who think that TOMA should mean something.
yeah,
But I bet it will mean that this stuff gets heavily policed from this point forward.
yeah.
Now, as a as the city's leading um, Dallas ethics code advocate, I can claim that mantle because second place doesn't fucking matter. Nobody
Yeah,
else has had more than one,
yeah.
and I represented
A
a lot of
lot.
council members.
Yeah,
It's like I can tell you there's a way to do this. Like if you're Kara and if you're Monty and you want to do this, it's a very simple solution. You have this meeting at I'm not going to name a law firm because,
yeah.
what would
But
they
yeah,
they didn't ask for this, but you have a meeting at a law firm and nobody says nothing
yeah.
later.
It's the brazenness of doing it at City Hall that I
Yeah.
think was quite shocking.
And
And
but
then,
even that was not going to work in this situation because her she hasn't actually said this. I assume the reason she invited Zarin, if it's true that she didn't realize he was on the committee, is because he was on the menu. Like they were going
yeah,
to see if he would accept the idea of moving this to Dallas Executive Airport,
yeah,
probably in conjunction with some big investment by Ashford,
yeah.
down
Which,
to have other development around it. No one knows what the pitch is because
yeah,
it was a secret fucking meeting.
yeah.
This is the point of TOMA. But I
And
assume that's kind of what they were going to do. And if they had done that in a private setting and invited Zarin, he would have probably gone to the media because this
yeah.
is like, I mean,
And
the
his post statements have basically been like, I had to protect my district, and like, no way in hell am I gonna vote to move the bridge to my district.
100%. And
Yeah,
truthfully, that's not just Zarin saying what Zarin thinks. That's
yeah,
Zarin telling you what his voters think, and
yeah,
he is dead right.
yeah, 100%. And for folks that aren't aware, like Dallas Executive Airport is probably what, like a mile away from like the shops at Redbird, which has been one of the most like successful southern sector redevelopment projects, economically speaking, in years.
Decades
So decades, yeah.
since Winwood,
Um,
probably,
yeah, yeah, because Wynwood here in District 1 has also been very successful
or
and
the
still,
university, the
oh
Winwood,
yeah, UNT,
the
yeah,
university, and the port. I think
yeah,
are
have all
your
been, yeah, but
yeah,
Shops at Redbird, huge success, really showing that like that part of Dallas wants, and can sustain amenities, and is like more middle class than we give them credit for. And I think like moving the bridge there is going to be a detriment to that kind of progress that District 3 has made over the years.
Well, and whether the operations of the bridge are positive or negative for their surroundings, because that was going to be one of my other points. I lived
Yeah.
5 blocks from the bridge for a year,
Yeah.
and I got to tell you, you don't know it's there. Like
Yeah.
it's not
But I think there's
really
a
not
difference
the
between
issue.
it being in downtown and it being like in South Oak Cliff.
Well, what
Like
I
if
think
you
I
move it
think
to
the
South Oak
point
Cliff,
is,
that's going to kill all development around it
yeah, I
because
mean,
of
I think.
other mindsets, like other preconceived biases.
And what it is just a repeat of a decades old attitude of North Dallas leaders toward the future of Southern Dallas. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Kara could be saying any more clearly that she fucking hates Southern Dallas,
Yeah. Yeah.
or that even if she doesn't hate it, she's willing to put anything down there that she doesn't want to see,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know how you clothe that in anything that allows you to sleep at night, you know?
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of bad. And I think it's bad in the same way, the same kind of nihilistic way that Monty Bennett and Dallas Hero and Props ST and U represent. They represent a fundamental disbelief, a fundamental skepticism about whether the city of Dallas as an entity should exist.
Yeah.
Like, I
Or
don't
have like
know if
any
they
power.
really think this should exist going forward.
Yeah. And like one other thing I do have to note, Basil Dua and Blackman, I think releasing the photo, all that kind of stuff. Like I do think it shows just like how this council is having like a very difficult time getting along. Like like
Well, you
uh
remember the core of this council got elected in 2019.
yeah, six of them.
And their immediate reaction to being elected, and really, I say this in a self-aggrandizing way, so the audience should take this with a grain of salt for sure. I mean, they really were reacting to me and Scott,
Yeah.
and their reaction, and I've talked to Chad about this because he was one of the primary offenders on this
Mhm.
thing, is, oh, we're going to be the nice council.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that I still can go have a drink with the people I served with on council to the extent they're free from prison. And 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 they fucking hate each other. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard for because you don't see it that much in public, but people ought to understand how much real strife there is on council these days, and how I wouldn't say none of it is based on policy, but a lot of it seems to be based on stuff that seems petty to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
That they would definitely not agree with that. So I don't want to say that I'm speaking for them. This is just my observation of they can't get along because they don't like each other.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to something like we've talked about a lot recently of you served on a council and a lot of your predecessors served on a council where there was like a strong leader, a strong figurehead, and you kind of went into camps of like the establishment and the reformers, but you had like your set camps of like, are you going to back the Leopard and Rawlings agendas? Generally speaking, are you not going to do that? Obviously, it's not like set parties, so people move in and out on certain issues. But this council essentially, like, you don't have two big camps in the same way that you used to for 12 years and more time before that. And I think the fact that there is no kind of like leader on on like the sides don't exist, but the fact that you don't have kind of like two leaders pushing coalitions together, I think has created this environment in a
And
lot
that's
of ways.
that's a chicken and egg too. It's
Yeah,
like there aren't sides because there aren't leaders, and there
yeah,
aren't leaders because there aren't sides.
yeah. And some of it is because like some of it's for good reasons and some of it's for bad reasons. And it's like you look at like the fact that there were sides were because like districts like 10 and 13 used to elect like people that in my mind is like, a District 1 person. Like the council people that used to serve like districts 10 and 13 used to be like terrible. Like I thought, every single policy decision they made for the most part, especially on divided issues, were bad. Versus now you have folks like Kathy Stewart, Gay Willis, who are like pretty dang good council people. But I feel like the council's kind of like moving in on itself in terms of like you have better people generally being elected, but the lack of the bad policy people and the lack of, I mean, quite frankly, like the criminals that you used to serve with is creating like a weirder situation at council. Yeah.
And it's probably worth giving a little bit of praise to this council. There's no obvious criminal on this council.
Yes, which I think actually goes nicely into the other topic you wanted to talk about, the Ethics Commission and the vote that happened yesterday on Wednesday, October 1st.
Okay, so the basic tent poles of the story are that Bill Roth, freshman council member, and definitely the heir of the extreme vitriol and nastiness of the people who were fighting the Pepper Square development. Bill lives nowhere near Pepper Square, by the way. Um, uh, Nominated Natalie Levesque, another person not particularly impacted by Pepper Square, but who is at every meeting telling, in my opinion, she's free to defend herself, telling lies about the project, and exploiting her child to speak at council, which everybody's like, oh, cute. I'm like, no, gross. That's fucking gross. Well, let's ask that kid in 15 years whether that was cool.
Yeah.
That ain't good, man. So he nominated her for the Ethics Advisory Commission, which is like one of the boards and commissions which council foolishly set up to have fewer than 15 members, although I think they might have corrected that at this point.
Yeah.
Um, but that adjudicates ethical complaints and also is tasked with advising the council on updates to the ethics code. And they've made a couple of you know, suggestions for amendments that were also horrible. The Ethics Advisory Commission has a very checkered history, I would say, is about the best you can say for it. Um, and but Natalie Levesque's husband is Damien Levesque, who is a wannabe right-wing influencer.
Yeah. I'm not
Who
sure if wannabe is even appropriate at this point. Like, I actually do think he's succeeded.
Oh, okay. You're
Yeah.
giving it more. I don't consume a lot of that media, so I just don't know.
Yeah.
The only time I see it is when I'm mentioned, which I don't honestly don't know why I'm ever mentioned. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense to me, but I've had to defend council members against numerous City of Dallas ethics complaints filed by Damien Lebec and even more numerous Texas Ethics Commission campaign finance complaints filed
Yeah.
by Damien Lebec. And none of them had any merit.
Yeah.
Like these have all been dismissed.
Yeah.
They were pure harassment, essentially.
Yeah.
And some of it were based on untrue information. Now, whether Mr. Levesque honestly believed the untrue information or whether he put it in there knowing it was false, I don't have any idea. But I believe, based on some conversations I've had with people in Austin and people in Dallas, that he and there's no actual legal label here for this, but I believe he is being viewed at this point as a vexatious litigant,
Yeah.
which in
And
court is when you file so many meritless things, you can essentially be declared persona non grata and lose your ability to use the court system. And I'm not saying that that's what's about to happen to this guy, but I don't know well, I can tell you for sure he should not waste his time filing more complaints.
so I could be wrong, but I actually think he's a smart guy doing work that is for a very specific purpose. The reason I say that
Oh, I
is
agree with
because
that.
I used to I used to do like opposition research and things like that, like for a living way back when. And to your point, like all of his ethics complaints and TEC violations fall apart pretty dang fast once uh like an impartial examiner has to actually look at it. But the thing is, his audience is not actually the ethics commissions. His audience are kind of the rubes and fools here in Dallas that watch his videos. And it's kind of like, one kind of smart guy with an audience of a bunch of fools that actually believe it. So it's like he's gonna say he files an ethics complaint against, West or Basil Dua or Blackman or, whoever. And the purpose is not to actually get them in trouble. The purpose is to convince his audience that they're unethical people. And to me, a big flag on that, especially recently, is that he has been the biggest cheerleader that Mendelsohn and Moreno did nothing wrong, having a meeting with Ashford with four committee members over the homeless situation we just spoke about.
Which is so
Like,
blatantly tendentious from a
yeah.
guy who is largely funded by the owner of Ashford. You
Yeah,
know,
which to me that is kind of the thing that like really set off the he's a very competent political operator. He's not by any means an ethics watchdog. Because like basically as soon as, Blackman, calls out Mendelsohn, Damien has said like he is filing an ethics complaint against Blackman for something that I believe is along the lines of like she was in a room with the city lobbyist and a state senator from outside of Dallas, and she asked the lobbyist to introduce her to the state senator so that Blackman could start a private conversation with the state senator about a private matter. And I think that is what he filed the complaint against, which is obviously like not a violation of anything
at all.
at all. But it's like essentially like, but he has essentially created videos now that Blackman is using city-funded lobbyists, which they also hate. They hate city-funded lobbyists. They hate Blackman. They hate city-funded lobbyists. They hate Democratic state legislators from outside of Dallas County. So it's all things they hate. But essentially, like the accusation is like Blackman used city resources for a personal benefit. Of course, like it's gonna fall apart immediately once, it's written up and gets sent to Texas Ethics if it hasn't already. Um, but that's the whole point of this. Like the point is deflection. The point is to
Well,
accuse
and
these
and
people
T
of being bad people.
yeah, TEC actually has no jurisdiction over a complaint like that. So the only place to file that is within the city of Dallas.
So he might have filed it within City of Dallas. Like I'm not 100% sure on that.
I have
But
reason to
yeah.
believe he didn't actually file it.
Yeah, sometimes he posts stuff and then doesn't actually file it too, based on
I,
my understanding.
I tend to hear about it.
Yeah, fair. Or it could be that
So,
it's happening later, like who knows? But
yeah.
you know, so basically, like to continue the story, Roth nominates Natalie Levesque to Ethics Advisory Commission. He also simultaneously nominates Natalie's mother to Arts and Culture, which I think is like kind of an important thing to note here. These nominations are not supposed to be rubber stamps per se by council, but they're generally approved as a slate unanimously. And so, I tried to rack my brain and ask people, like, I don't think anyone has been denied a nomination like this in 4 years. Like it's pretty rare, but it does happen. Um, and so Councilmember
The only time
West,
it happens is when you appoint somebody so problematic that the rest
yeah,
of council is like double birds to you.
yeah,
And the
and it's
wife of
usually
somebody who
important.
is filing numerous frivolous ethics complaints against these council members, what the fuck did they expect?
Yeah, and so I want to get to that later, but to your point earlier, like to what you just said, the last one I can remember is when Omar Narvaez, great guy, hopefully a listener, probably not because he's too important, but Narvaez nominated Anna
He has
Casey.
somebody listen for him and give him the summary.
That's fair. Okay. But Omar nominated Anna Casey to redistricting commission, which is actually now not allowable under the charter, but at the time was. And I think it was Councilwoman Staubach Gates kind of pulled it out of the slate and had it as its own standalone up and down vote, and it was voted down under the logic that Casey, who I think you and I and probably most listeners agree has did a lot of great things for the city by electing like good reformers and like good, progressives, et cetera, to council, but she was a campaign manager for a lot of council and putting her on redistricting commission, so the argument goes, uh, could be conceived as a financial benefit to her. Granted, like Casey didn't do this necessarily for the money. I think she did it because like she believed in making Dallas a better place, all that kind of stuff. But like she did get paid to do this. And like when I was on charter commission, like I did vote to move this forward to ban this from ever occurring again. Like people like Anna Casey, people like myself should not serve on redistricting commission. Like I firmly believe, because there would be a long-term financial benefit. And also we we are too in the weeds on this stuff and know what like every little tinkering of district lines would mean for these incumbents that we care about. So I say all that to say, like, that was a good case of like it got pulled out, voted down. Natalie Levesque is like a similar situation, except I don't think anywhere as virtuous as Anna Casey was. Um, but Natalie was pulled out. Councilmember West made the motion. Council voted 11-4 to divide the slate. I'll give you literally one guess what the 11-4 vote was, because it's the most predictable 11-4 vote that occurs at council nowadays, if that is the number. The
It's
rest of the,
exactly who you
yeah,
think it is.
yeah. The rest of the slate, including Natalie's mother to arts and culture, was approved unanimously, voice vote, so technically 15-0. And then they go into debate on approving Natalie Levesque to Ethics Commission. Um, and do you want to take it from here, or do you want me to keep going?
Well,
Or
I mean, the reason that I was getting texts from the horseshoe
yeah,
during this deal is because the question came up of, does Natalie Levesque get banned from serving on the Ethics Advisory Commission um, because of the actions of her husband?
no, she
And
gets banned because of her own actions, and that is like something very important to distinguish here.
well, that's the interesting thing because Chad very clearly said he had many things he could point to
Yeah,
where she was disqualified by her own words and actions. And by the way, I know what many of those are. This is
yeah,
a very valid argument. This is a person who hates city government and who specifically hates many members of this city council.
yeah,
So, I mean, it's just, I mean, Bill, I mean, my man, I know you're new. You ain't getting any of these wackos appointed to anything. So
yeah.
like just back down a little bit, you don't really want the Ethics Advisory Commission to turn into fucking Star Chamber, man. That
Yeah,
just
it's that
you got to
it
understand that there's a goose gander rule here. And
yeah,
if somebody then puts me on the Ethics Advisory, no, I would never serve. But
yeah. It's the
you get the
fox guarding
point.
the henhouse problem,
Yeah.
right? Like I mean, you can't put somebody like that is clearly entering this with such bias against certain members and bias in favor of certain members that
Well,
they
and so
cannot do the job.
the reason I was getting texts is because this debate started because Kara was trying to make a point of saying Mrs. Levesque is very qualified for this job, which I can argue against that very easily. Um, and is just being punished for the actions of her husband. And Chad did, in fact, highlight the actions of her husband as his primary reason, which I thought
Yeah,
he might have picked a couple of her social media posts because
yeah,
they're out there.
yeah,
And the people interpreted Kara's comments as directed at Melissa.
Yeah,
who
which I
was
think they were.
reappointed by
Yeah.
voice vote with Kara's vote.
Yeah. Because
And
she cited one person's husband as being mean to her, which I'm assuming was you.
I have listened to her twice this morning, and I think people are mishearing what she said.
Okay.
I think she's talking about her brother. I think she
Oh,
says that she has taken heat for her family member, which is Josh
okay. Yeah.
Mond,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
general counsel of the Dallas Police and Fire Pension System.
Yeah.
Um, and certainly Kara's actions on council have appeared to benefit her brother. Like that's not really arguable.
Yeah.
And so
You could argue it's just that her and her brother have a very similar worldview on these issues. Like in her defense, like last podcast I was defending Eric too much. This podcast I feel like I'm defending Kara too much. But I mean essentially like I don't want to be Damien Levesque here. Like just
yeah,
basically like if Chad or Baz or Paula like pet a dog, Damien's gonna say that like they ripped a hair out of their
my
fur,
point my point in raising that about
Yeah.
Kara is first,
That it's a real concern.
I think that's what she was actually talking about.
Yeah.
But two, it doesn't matter what her reason for being such a bulldog on police and fire pension fund issues is. It's probably that she truly believes it. It's
Yeah.
probably 1,000% sincere, but that doesn't fucking
Yeah.
matter in
Yeah.
an ethical framework because
You're
the
right.
appearance of impropriety is what you're trying to avoid. And the smart thing for her to do would be to recuse
Yep.
from any of those discussions, which she has
100%.
pointedly refused to do. And
Yeah.
so she is now woe is meing something
Yeah.
that she did that I think is probably a mistake from an ethics standpoint,
Yeah.
and saying that she was being punished because of her family member. And I mean, I don't know. It's the grievance thing. This is one thing that you can actually say is different between left and right. The right wing is the grievance party. They are always woe is me. I'm being treated more unfairly than any president in history.
Yeah.
This is just their new rhetorical standard, which unfortunately works on the dummies that vote for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's what she was saying. We could listen to it real quick if you wanted to.
Sure. If you got it. If
I
you already
think I
clipped
got
it.
it. Hang on, let's see if I can make this thing do what I think it can.
Yeah. And
Uh,
then I think you got it. Okay.
are you seeing
Wait,
that?
I'm seeing
Let's see
it.
if
There
it'll
we go.
play.
Okay. Try.
At our preeminent law school, SMU. Again, she's helping shape minds of future leaders in the city. The question of if we turn down a resident who's willing to give their time voluntarily that is qualified because they have a family member you might not like is really shocking. I'll say that I've had some retribution from the same sort of thing about my
Uh,
family member.
That's not Melissa.
Every attorney can be
she,
disbarred.
I do think so. I think you caught something that I completely missed, and I think a lot of other people missed. But she did mention also the like approving another nominee
She would.
that like the husband says things that are mean.
So with that,
I think that was you and Melissa.
Okay,
And
well
but I think
this is really boring. So if you're really into it, it's up on the streaming service, the
yeah,
Dallas, Texas Swagit, Swagit. You can
yeah,
just find it from a Google search. And it's item number two, and she starts at about 49 and change.
yeah.
It's too boring to listen to. We're gonna have to definitely quit that.
Yeah, no, that's
How
fine.
do I stop sharing?
But yeah, so I mean, basically they go into debate. Roth, Mendelsohn, the mayor, they all Roth and Mendelsohn defend Natalie Levesque,
I stopped
and
sharing, right?
you haven't stopped sharing yet.
God.
Yeah, but they defend Levesque. The mayor kind of mentions he's obviously mainly talking to the freshmen and sophomores. because they have not had this type of situation before. And I think in his mind, that is the way. I think he thought the way to win was like going after the freshmen and sophomores that didn't want to do something that hasn't been done in 4 years.
Which seemed to work on Maxie Johnson, by the
Yeah,
way.
seemed to work on Maxie Johnson because again, it was an 11-4 vote to divide the question, and then it ended up being a 6-9 vote to approve the nomination. So essentially, two people, two people moved on that, which, yeah, it is what it is.
It was
But
Maxie and Kathy, right?
Kathy, yeah. So you can put together who the nine that voted to deny the nomination were. But the mayor made that point. The mayor also, and I'm this is one that like I genuinely do not know, and either way it's hilarious. The mayor said multiple times and did so in like the way he spoke, it was either like great acting slash terrible acting or genuine of like he does not even know who these people are. Like, who is this woman? Like essentially like that level. And it's like it is the most Eric thing, like the most Mayor Johnson thing to basically be like, you either are pretending you don't know them or you're just so fucking checked out that like you actually don't know who the Levesques
It's
are.
amazing how he's developed this reputation for himself where he's both considered this incredibly thin-skinned person who does know everybody and
Yeah.
what they've said and what they think about him,
Yeah.
and then also this guy who does not give a shit about his job and therefore might not know what's going on.
Yeah.
How does he get both of those?
Yeah. So I could see it going either way, truly. But like Johnson did that, West, I in my mind, like I think West kind of like was willing. He's a senior on council. He doesn't have to run for re-election again. Like I think he kind of took a bullet on this one because like if you've been paying attention, like social media since the vote, like Damian Levesque and the entire like Dallas right-wing ecosystem has been creating videos after video. Like there's multiple videos now like attacking Chad. And like basically like they trained all their fire on him as opposed to the other eight for the most part. And I think he kind of took the hit so that his colleagues wouldn't in a lot of ways. And I also just think like he's willing to just do it because like I think that council knew that it was a terrible nomination from a substantive standpoint. Again, it just she could not do the job impartially based on what both her and her husband do. And to your point, like you just need to look at like her social media stuff. I think it's a little bit harder to like explain in a verbal setting, like the stuff that she does as opposed to the stuff he does. Um, but I mean, like you even look at it from the sense of like, an ethics committee member is not supposed to be in legal action with the city. And it's like her husband is constantly threatening to sue the city. So like, are we immediately gonna appoint somebody to the ethics commission that would have to recuse themselves over like some of the biggest cases? And, recusal is not mandatory by any means. Um, so it was a mess. I do wonder also, like going back to like Roth, is like it could be one of two things. It could either be a naivety of like how to count to eight, or this could have been like politically orchestrated as well. Because you look at like what has occurred since that vote, and there has been a very intense, like far right attack on Dallas ethics and the city council for denying this nomination of such an upstanding, qualified person like Natalie Levesque, that I
Well,
could
that would
see this being
assume that
orchestrated.
Bill needs to stir up the right wing. Um,
I don't think it was Bill. I don't think it was Bill stirring up the right wing. I think it was him. If it was the second option, it's him doing them a solid.
I think it's more them using a guy who doesn't know
Yeah,
what he's doing yet.
that's fair.
Because I'll tell you, outside of the right wing ecosystem, the person in this entire exchange who looks the dumbest and the worst is Bill
Mhm.
Roth. Losing
Yeah,
a
a
fucking
nomination.
board and commission nominee in your own district is embarrassing as hell. And I
Yeah.
guarantee he didn't like that.
Yeah.
And Bill has shown, I mean, he has shown that he is trying to learn this job. Like he is
Yeah.
actually making an effort to learn this job. And he has already called out Kara for using him.
Hmm.
And so he understands he's being used from time to time. And I think he doesn't like it.
Yeah. That's fair. And if that's the case, like I think the option one that I said of essentially like he could not count to eight on this, like that is just like an unfortunate level of like naivete. Because
Yeah,
I
probably
think
wasn't aware he needed to.
that's okay. Fair enough. Yeah. So
You know, it
it's a
never
learning curve.
happens. So he hasn't seen it happen,
Hasn't
you
seen
know.
it happen. Yeah. And you know it better than me, but like the I mean when Casey's nomination to redistricting got shot down, like it kind of like that one kind of like stumbled into it, right? Because like Staubach Gates kind of like didn't she say something at one point like post meeting that to her she just wanted to vote no and she didn't even realize that like there were eight votes. I mean that could be just bluster after the fact, but like
But it's also believable with her.
yeah. Like she like in her mind I think she was doing the right thing and like I actually for again for what it's worth like I think Staubach Gates was correct on the merits of it on this situation, but that whole thing kind of felt like they stumbled into eight votes.
I don't really agree
Okay, and
that
you know it better than me.
no. I
Oh,
agree
okay.
with I what you're saying is very valid, and it was the reason that most people interpreted it the way that you're interpreting it, because
Yeah.
that is what strikes most people. I simply don't think redistricting is all that important, and I don't think that there's any special knowledge that comes from being a campaign manager. Anybody can go and learn these districts well enough to know how to move the pieces around the table. I think that's all kind of, I don't think it's that important. My point when that happened was the same as it is my point to Mr. Roth today.
Yeah.
What the fuck did you think was going to happen? It was
Yeah.
so predictable, you
It was
know?
predictable. And my pushback on that is that campaign managers and people like that could see it's like an A to B line of they help draw a district and then based on the district they drew, they receive financial benefit from what they did at a city and board.
I hear
Yeah,
your argument, and I totally understand it.
yeah.
I just think that most people who are actually good at this already have their stable, you know, and the
Somewhat, yeah.
redistricting, you know, people during redistricting think it is the grail, that it determines the outcome in the future. And
Hmm.
it influences the outcome
It does.
100%, but
Yeah,
it is not a panacea.
yeah,
You know, I mean, you only have to look at Delia Hasso voting for a district she was sure she could win, you know?
yeah. I mean that's fair. And District 1 is a little bit unique and I say this like with a District 1 lens. Like District 1 has seen like geographic, disparities that other districts haven't
Yeah.
in a lot of ways because of the Griggs-Hasso election. We didn't really see it this past time because there were three white candidates and no Latino candidates. Um, but but yeah, I mean essentially like let's pretend there were no term limits and redistricting was about to occur. And my goal was to, you know, keep electing Chad West. Like I would pull the district, if it wasn't going to screw over like, Ridley, like you basically create the streetcar district that like Randall Bryant wanted to create while maintaining like an Oak Cliff majority. Like essentially, like there's things you do with
Yeah, that's what Randall thought he was doing, but that his version
I
of that district
yeah.
would have permanently moved the council member for that district to Uptown.
Yeah. And so I mean, so I'm not saying it's perfect. And like they essentially did, like he didn't draw enough Oak Cliff into it. Like obviously Chad probably would have won because, he's an incumbent. He
Is very popular with the fancy gays.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, he could put together a North Oak Cliff Oaklawn coalition,
100%.
but then when he's termed out, the center of
It
power
never
could
comes
move to,
back to Oak Cliff at that
probably
point.
never comes back to Oak Cliff,
No,
type of thing.
I drew one that went more east-west for him, that
Hmm.
got rid of the southern part of District 1, and he picked up a good part of southern part of Uptown over to the Arts District.
Yeah,
And that
like
would have,
that's winnable.
oh my God,
Well, I
not just
mean,
winnable, it's a
yeah,
slam dunk. Like the
yeah,
numbers were amazing. And
yeah. And to
then,
be
and
clear, like he won like three elections, like him versus a Latino candidate
yeah.
because of a few things, like he won more Latino voters than he lost white voters. Um, and then just like, you know, what I mean, like other things, but like that was a big part of it. But like, yeah,
So anyway, the reason that one of the reasons that map didn't get any traction was that Joan Ridley, Paul's wife, loves the Arts District very, very much and thinks it's very important for it to be in District 14.
yeah.
And as somebody who represented the Arts District and actually chaired the Arts and Culture Committee, I can tell you that the Arts District is exactly what Jim Shoots says it is. It's a racist reaction to cultural assets being at Fair Park.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a perfect example too of like, I think we've made progress on redistricting reform in this city, but like it's still
Yeah, and thanks to you in a
pretty,
lot of ways.
uh, it was more thanks to, honestly, like Raphael and Shia and Mike.
Raphael had great ideas.
Yeah, like it was more the 2014 commission. It's just that that one last little piece got marked out. And I do want to say one other thing for the folks that like actually know who I am. Like I keep talking about like I should not serve on redistricting, but I did serve on charter and I dealt with election stuff.
Hmm.
The reason I felt comfortable doing that is what another former consultant told me, and that is me trying to move the election date from May to November is actually me being a profession traitor. Like I'm being a traitor to my profession. Like moving the election from May to November is very bad for consultants,
I've heard this argument.
but very good for the general population. And it's, I mean, it's almost like I don't want to put myself on like this like pedestal of like equivalence, but it's like FDR being a class
It's your
traitor.
podcast, David. Do
I
it.
know. Yeah, but it's like FDR being a class traitor essentially. Like
Yeah.
I was a traitor to my profession. Like going back to it, like Anna Casey, amazing consultant, fucking hated this. The we When we got public feedback from the public, literally we got one person submit opposition to this proposal, and it was Mary Woodleaf, who is another consultant, very, very good at what she does, similar to Casey.
We can agree
We
to disagree.
Okay, but I think the reason that you dislike her so much is because she went to war with you. Which if I
Twice.
lived in District 14, I would have voted for you and not her candidate. But like, like
Twice. Did it twice.
okay, fair enough. But like Woodleaf opposed this. Essentially, like the people who actually like opposed this and tried to kill it were the other consultants that were
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?"
Yep. Yeah. No, I get it 100%.
Yeah,
And yes, we will, in fact, create a major award on the podcast to give to David De La Fuente for his unimpeachable ethics and self-sacrificing desire for the improvement of our society.
yeah, I appreciate it.
That's too much to put on the actual plaque, but we'll
Yeah,
figure out a name.
yeah, I appreciate it.
Outstanding achievement in the field of excellence.
Yeah, something like that's fine. Yeah,
I think
but
we should save City Hall for our next episode simply
oh,
because
that's
it
fine.
appears that it's not going anywhere, but the debate is getting dumber. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of fun.
yeah, and the more time passes, the more information we'll have. But the big question is, are we gonna tear it down or fix it or let it just fall into decay even more? We'll see.
Yeah. Morning News, pretty good article on it. Paul Ridley, in a shout out to him,
Yeah,
is the only person in the article who sounds reasonable. All right, man. Have a great week. I will see
you
you
too.
soon.
See you, bye.